I had a lich in one of my campaigns, and I built a series of clues that the party could follow, breadcrumbs that would lead them to identify that he was a lich. He was a secret lich. He was their guild leader. And I gave them all the clues that they needed at like level 4 or 5. And I had to write down for myself, what am I going to do? What's going to happen here if they crack this puzzle fast, which you never really know. And what if they just go confront the lich right away? What if they go, oh, it's our guild leader. Let's just go talk to him. Let's call him out, actually, in front of the town. And Paul, do you have any tips on how much freedom to give players to make them feel like they have a real impact on the world and not railroad them, but not be so free that they deviate from the prep? So I'm still working on the best way of describing this, but I personally, I don't think that, I'm not sure that railroad as a term is very helpful when talking about this stuff, because railroad brings with it like negative connotations. It's sort of notorious in the community now, right, for what meaning it carries with it. Really what we're talking about is to what extent is an adventure on tracks, and to what extent is an adventure more freeform, sandbox. And both experiences can be fun. Uncharted is on tracks. I never feel railroaded when I'm playing that game. That feels like a lot of fun. In fact, it's like a roller coaster. People go to roller coasters, go to amusement parks all the time. It's a lot of fun. And depending on the campaign, one makes sense and the other doesn't. I run 3 campaigns right now for friends. 2 of those are what I would consider fairly sandbox open world. The third one, I'm experimenting, I'm pushing myself. I'm doing a short campaign, like 10 sessions. Well, kind of like a one-shot. Like, this thing kind of has to be on a track. This has to go somewhere. Otherwise, how's it ever going to be satisfying and interesting? But the cool part about this game is that even if there are guardrails, even if we're on a roller coaster, we get to allow freedoms. They're harder to put in place than creating a sandbox for somebody and saying, go explore all of the wonderful things that I've created in this world. But it's possible in either case. I don't think that being on a track takes away from anybody's fun or freedom. And I don't think that sandboxes necessarily provide more fun definitively or more freedom, actually. I need to dig more into that and find more words to explain my feelings about all those things. Railroading people. So if I was to pick another term, like blocking player decisions. Maybe that's a term that I can use. I'm figuring this out in real time. Standing in the way of what a player is trying to do is sometimes appropriate. For all the obvious reasons, but for less obvious reasons. If I'm running a session, let's say it's a one-shot, I've actually experienced this, and I've seen other DMs experience this. If we're playing a one-shot and one member of the party is like, I'm going to go north, or I'm going to separate myself from everybody else and sort of kind of imply that I'm the main character, I think it's perfectly appropriate for the Dungeon Master to say, no. Well, then we need a different character that would... this is when those phrases come out, like, that's what my character would do. And it's like, okay, yeah. Well, then make a character that would be fun to play with this group of people. Except in situations that are going to sort of detract from the fun for everybody. Generally speaking, blocking is typically not a good thing to do. We don't want to block our players from doing anything that they want to try, but that's the key, is try. Just because they want to do something doesn't mean that everything that they want to do is possible. Your goal is wanting players to feel like their choices and actions matter and have consequences, but you don't want them to cause so much deviation that the original plot is no longer possible. Yes. One shorthand I use for this is when you're designing an encounter. Let's just say it's a, let's say that the sheriff is corrupt and the party's going to confront the sheriff, and the sheriff is tied to this whole intricate plot, and you've connected the corrupt locals to the king through all these guilds and these various means, and if they uncover this, it's gonna crack open the next bit of the campaign. And the party kind of goes, we're gonna fireball it from 300 feet away. We never need to see them. We're just gonna destroy that whole town square. We're cool with that. So how do you deal with stuff like that? I think that when creating these scenarios, we need to be thinking about, well, okay, what's the most likely thing that's going to happen? Like, we can kind of predict, like, okay, well, probably the party's going to do something like this. They're going to approach and have a conversation, have a fight. And then I try to think about, well, what if the players lose? What if the party loses? Like, is this a TPK situation? Is this something where there's an alternative to the campaign's over? Maybe they get captured or maybe something else. And then what if something weird happens? So I think, like, we stand 300 feet back, we hit them with a fireball. I think part of being loose in our prep is to not be tied down to it if things change, right? If plans get upended by the party, well, let's take accounting of what was ever said, what was ever put on the stage. Because if there are ideas that were locked into our minds, but they were off in the wings or they were in the back and nobody ever saw them, they're fungible. We can change them. We can react now to where the story is going, and we can try to meet the party where they want to take it. Because the party could also say, we captured the sheriff, we bring him with, we're going to take him with us, and we're going to take him straight to these guilds, and we're going to sort this out. And it's like, whoa, this upends this whole kind of, cloak and dagger campaign plot. What do we do? I had a lich in one of my campaigns, and I built a series of clues that the party could follow, breadcrumbs that would lead them to identify that he was a lich. He was a secret lich. He was their guild leader. And I gave them all the clues that they needed at like level 4 or 5. And I had to write down for myself, what am I going to do? What's going to happen here if they crack this puzzle fast, which you never really know. And what if they just go confront the lich right away? What if they go, oh, it's our guild leader. Let's just go talk to him. Let's call him out actually in front of the town. It's like, what would happen? Because at 4th level, at 5th level, they would stand no chance against this 1,000-year-old lich. They're going to have a tough fight at 15th, 16th level. So I was like, okay, well, and I wrote this down for myself. If they confront the lich, if they call him out in public, if they call him out in the guild hall, whatever they do, whoever makes the accusation, whoever actually is leading the group and says that, he's going to power word kill them, and then he's going to basically curse them for wasting his time, and he's going to leave. Not run from them. They're not even worth his time, but he will seek retribution immediately in the moment for the person who basically points their finger at him and says, you're a lich. And it's like, because I really hope the party doesn't do that. But if the party does do that, part of it is thinking to myself, well, what would be the most epic experience to have in that moment? Like, those players forever would be like, remember when we solved that puzzle and we figured out that our guild leader was a lich, and then we went and confronted them, and the rogue was disintegrated on the spot? And it's like, okay, that's worth it. So I wrote all that down. I was like, this is what's going to happen if it comes to this. Really hoping it didn't. And the party solved the puzzle at about 8th level, and they ended up opting to be very, very careful with how they approached it, so they did end up doing what I was afraid of. Because even at 8th level, it probably would have been the same thing. This guy would have had no trouble disintegrating one of them and then shifting away. So to some extent, I think part of the answer is to sort of try to think about these things as loosely as possible, right? Think about character NPC motivations, think about factions and what they're trying to accomplish, and rather than specifically thinking that, like, okay, so we've got, first the party is going to have that like fight on the caravan coming into town, and then they're going to get in the middle of that heist, and then they're going to go to the ball, and that's where all this stuff is going to go. Instead of that, think about what the various characters and groups that you've created are trying to accomplish, and think of it more like a swirl of things, and it'll try to keep your options open as much as you can, I guess. My approach, which is not everybody's approach, I figured out early on, my first real group campaign, it fell apart probably 6 or 7 sessions in, but one of the things I learned right away is that I had prepped a series of sessions and they derailed at some point, and I was like, well, wait a minute, I can't use that now, that thing that I planned. So I just wasted my time, and I hated that feeling. I hated that I had worked on something that didn't get to go on stage. So way back then, 6 years ago now, and I still do this now, I only ever prep the next session. Like, truly prep. I have lots of ideas. I have outlines and things that could happen. But at the end of a session, if I have a week, that's the week that I spend prepping the next session. I find the time that I can and do it. Every once in a while, there's a bigger session, a bigger idea that takes a couple more weeks to prep for. That'll happen. But for the most part, I took on that grind early on, saying, okay, this is going to be a hard adjustment for me. This is going to be tough because I haven't prepped very much D&D before. But I was like, in the long run, if I get good enough at this every week, iterating, and then I'll be able to keep up. And then at the end of a session, no matter what the party wants to do, the party in my game, aside from my like 10 session short experiment campaign, in my sort of sandbox open world campaigns, at the end of a session, they could say, we're going to then teleport to the astral sea and do something. And I'm fine with that. I don't push back on that. My only requirement of the party is that when they're going to make these decisions, they have to tell me at the end of a session so I can be ready for the next session. Not to say they couldn't do that mid-session also, but like, I generally want to know what their intention is for the next session. That way I don't, again, spend time prepping something that's not going to make sense. And aside from that, like, if you have, it's a big topic. Like, there's a lot of different angles to look at this from. If you have a specific plot sort of that you're working on and that you're kind of nervous about, be happy to talk about that specifically. Because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to trying to sort of balance the story and the narrative and the world, and also fully let the party in there to slice and dice and send it every which way, as they're known to do. And sometimes the original plot does get thrown out. That's one of those things. I'm not sure I have any tricks for that one.